also, being the firstborn in an immigrant household, there's this kind of like, especially being a son and, in our cultures, there's this like natural, hey, you are next in charge.
In your mind, like, what's the difference between a person who succeeds and the person that quits? Besides the obvious, like, what's the mindset like of those two individuals?
I'm like making like a heartfelt prayer to God. I'm like, God, like, I need to see money. If you don't show me money, like, I'm gonna quit. Like, I'm gonna go back. This is just not working. And there's so many people that are into their 50s and 60s now that made a decision on what their career was gonna be based off of, okay, what's gonna pay me the most. And there's not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying there's so much more to life.
It's a matter of respect, right? Yeah. Because, everybody, they want money, right? We all want it. But if you can't respect that penny on the ground that you see, you just walk past it, you're never going to get the real money.
Facts.
Do you think entrepreneurship is for everyone? Like that decision you made from the corporate world, making good money to
Definitely
get into?
Definitely not.
What's up, my guy?
How you doing, man? Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your patience, by the way.
No, absolutely, man. I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we're sitting with Vozhi, a.k.a. I'm going to let you say your name.
My name is Vozhi Adiaman, a.k.a. Vozhi, Seattle-based entrepreneur, real estate agent, recently developer, investor.
Hustler, entrepreneur, motivation, everything, bro.
Yeah,
positive energy.
Similar to the guy over here, hosting the platform.
No, man, I just want to say, I know we've been catching up, but I really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it, like, this is the first time that we're meeting.
Yeah. For those watching, this is really like the first time we're having a conversation in the physical.
And I know a lot of my followers, they follow you too.
Crazy.
So,
yeah.
I think this is going to be it's going to be an interesting conversation, man. I
Love
think,
it.
You got a lot of good energy. You're doing a lot of things in your community, right? We're both from India, but different parts of it. And it's really good to see other like-minded individuals that are not just working, but they're also inspiring. And that was one of the reasons, which attracted me to your page is there's that motivation behind it, man. You're attracted to it, right? It's that energy that you're putting out.
Yeah.
And then finally I was like, all right, it's time to reach out and connect. And we're sitting here now, but
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
And likewise, bro, I think that energy comes from this mutual place of having the similar background. Yes, we're both from, the same general region, but, even more general than that, like, we're both immigrants that, came to this country, based out of our parents' voyage here for a better life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I think, just from the culture we come from, it's very important to honor the effort they put in to create a better life for us.
Yeah.
So that creates this like foundation of motivation for us to, proceed in life. And there's a lot of that energy behind, why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that we both are on the same vibe about.
I mean, let me talk about that.
Yeah.
I see, obviously, I think everyone that follows you, and if you don't, they're going to probably learn today, but real estate development, besides that, like, why are you so involved in the community? I see you're doing events.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about you as a rapper.
Yeah.
Right? If that's the...
Yeah. We'll talk about it all. And I think it's, no, just to kind of, I guess, set the tone on that subject. Yeah, it's like, when I originally began this journey towards, entrepreneurship and, being someone that has freedom over his time, I decided that, I'm not just in it for the sake of just getting money. Yeah. Right? Obviously, that's a great element.
Absolutely.
And that is a, big reason for, why it is what we do. But that wasn't my only reason. For me, it was always important to be kind of holistically, like a, full human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was always like a big part of something that I wanted to do that I never really had the opportunity to do in my previous life. When I was working in the corporate world, I felt like all these like intrinsic, like, things that I knew I wanted to do that I'm doing now that I wasn't at that time. And I felt so restricted in that, arena. Like, if I wanted to be a music artist and at the same time I'm like a program manager at Microsoft, you know what I mean? And like, if my manager sees my thing on Instagram, it's just going to be awkward in that world.
A little conflict there.
Yeah. So feeling these feelings over the course of many years, when I decided I'm going to transition into this entrepreneurship world, and we can talk about why that happened.
Sure.
But like, when I transitioned, I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure out what it is that I want to do with my life. And over a lot of, time I spent, internally reflecting, I decided, that my mission statement is to integrate real estate, investing in entrepreneurship with
Yeah.
culture, music, and technology to inspire positive change in the community.
Okay.
For me, it was always important, obviously, to have a business and make money. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
kind of put real estate as the primary vehicle for that. And it was always important for me to be an artist and express myself. That's
Yeah.
always been something that's a huge passion of mine. Ever since I was a kid, I was into poetry, I was into music.
Yeah.
And I felt that the only reason I wasn't, putting myself out there and, just like, especially when it's so democratized to be able to, create in today's era.
Sure.
I felt that the only reason I wasn't doing that was because there were these limitations. So I felt, I don't want that limitation. I want this to be a part of my life. And the third thing, community, I felt it's, like there's so many people similar to, what we're going through and in situations where, their life circumstance might not warrant them to be successful or, take steps towards success.
Yeah.
And I figured, living in this era we're at, why not use the platforms that I have
Absolutely.
available to me
Yeah.
to kind of document my journey in a way where other people can also, benefit and learn from. And I think throughout that, certain communities and events and the work that I've done
Okay.
began.
So making this transition, right?
Yeah.
From the corporate world, like, how did you make this change to like be in real estate? Like, what made you like go
Yeah.
from corporate to real estate?
Yeah. So I was always like into entrepreneurship. Like I think it was like that hustler instinct was always
Sure.
in me. Like ever since I came to America, right? Like I was always trying to find an extra way to make a dollar. Like,
Sure.
I couldn't ask my parents for money. They were struggling financially themselves, taking care of the family.
Yeah.
And there was always like this desire to like want things, but I knew I couldn't ask my parents. So like very early on, I would like I figured out how to go to the King County Library and like get a CD and like burn CDs of popular albums that kids didn't know how to do then. And so I would like make a bunch of CDs and go sell it at school for like $5 a pop. Like so I had this like instinct already as a kid.
Yeah.
And I tried like various like smaller things like throughout college, like clothing and just trying to do a startup or just whatever the case is. So I always had this like instinct towards business, but there's no like immediate guide within like my immediate family that's doing like that's an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? So it was always like the blueprint was go to college and get that coveted six-figure so I get that great degree and then go get a coveted six-figure income job and
Sure.
then you're set, like
Yeah.
you made your brown parents proud.
Yeah.
So that was so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that, because at least, my parents, struggled to put me in this position. So I'm going to, get through college. I took out loans and get through college. I'm going to get the best possible degree that I can. I actually Googled which degree is going to make me the most money.
Bro,
And that's literally why I
the
chose
kids
it.
do that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember when,
Yeah.
I was a kid, like,
Yeah.
we're thinking about what we're going to do for our future. And
Yeah.
hopefully if there's, I got a lot of the
Yeah.
younger generation
Generation
watching as well.
watching, yeah.
It's like, you're sitting there on the computer and be like, what job pays the most?
Crazy.
Or
Yeah.
what degree pays the
Yeah.
most? And, I remember at a certain time, I think it was like air traffic controller was like upwards of six figures. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I want to do that.
Yeah.
So I can really relate to that.
100%. Isn't that so crazy to think about though? Now it's like we do these things and it's such a like terrible foundation to figure out the rest of your life. And there's so many people that are into their 50s and 60s now that made a decision on what their career was going to be based off of, okay, what's going to pay me the most. And there's not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying there's so much more to life.
I think, and I feel like sometimes in today's world, it's kind of taboo where
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about it. But,
Yeah.
talking about like money and finances, right? Like you said, right? It's necessary in everyone's life, right?
Absolutely.
Especially, out here in the Western culture, right? Bills, food, daily living expenses, clothes, we all need it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, especially in our communities, I don't know, right? At least in the Punjabi community, is they don't want to talk about it.
It's
They don't
very
want to
similar,
educate their kids about it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I see a lot of, even with people, my age, my generation, that are working jobs because of just the money, but they don't enjoy it.
100%. Yeah,
You
it's
know?
more about the stability that they're chasing.
Yeah, and I think
and because our parents had this, and bless their hearts, they did their best, and obviously everyone's parents are different situations, but I think the common theme is a lot of them just came here to survive. So there's this element of scarcity in the mindset that's embedded without them realizing
Yeah.
that gets passed down generationally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can I can definitely say I was one of those kids that had a mentality about money that I had to unlearn as I
Bro,
continue to progress in
you're hitting
entrepreneurship.
some of like the hottest points right now. I
Yeah.
think this is it's just such a thing that's not talked about, right? Like we come, our families, they come here for a better opportunity, and they see that opportunity because there's so much abundance here. But then we're raised with scarcity, right? Turn off the lights before you leave the house,
Yeah.
right?
The car doesn't
Why
run
are
on
you in the
water.
shower for 30
Yeah.
minutes?
Yeah.
Like, come on, don't save some water, right?
Yeah.
These little things like
Yeah.
that, and we grow up in that.
Yeah.
So, how did your mindset, like, how did it change to like this abundant mindset from
Yeah.
this scarcity mindset? Like, what was that change? Did you run into someone? Like, tell me about that, man.
Yeah, no, I want to get into it, but I want to answer the previous question about how I also got into real estate.
Sure,
'Cause
sure, absolutely.
It definitely ties in. I'm a
Okay.
huge believer in abundance and manifestation, and I genuinely believe that starting a business or launching that type of initiative is like the ultimate, you know, ultimate use of using the tool of faith. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you can't start a business without having faith.
Yeah.
And I think the concept of abundance ties deeply into that. But to answer your previous question of how I got into real estate, so got that degree, got a great job, worked at Microsoft, worked at Accenture, made my parents proud,
Yeah, yeah.
paid off my student loans. So I'm like successful as
Yeah.
like this young 20s guy now making six figures, like doing well in life, right? And at this point, I'm like 4 or 5 years into the corporate world. And I realized I wanted to get into some sort of business. It was this like itching passion within me that I knew I wanted to
Create your own business.
Yeah. And then I saw all the people in the corporate world, and I realized it's like if I stayed here, it's these golden handcuffs that I'm never gonna want to leave. I'm gonna have a mortgage. I'm gonna have a wife. I'm gonna have kids. I'm gonna have all these payments, and it's gonna be way more risky at that time for
Yeah.
me to not have a consistent income. Whereas
Yeah.
now I've paid off all my debt. I have some money saved up. If I don't begin something now, I'm never going to begin. So that was kind of my mentality, like in my mid 20s, and so I was reading a lot of books about entrepreneurship and how to be successful. Like years before I like made the move.
Yeah.
And a common theme throughout this study period was real estate amongst a lot of these successful people.
Yeah.
And I realized, what, ultimately as a business, I want to launch some sort of product or service into the marketplace. And what can I do? What product or service can I launch? And then it hit me that real estate is the biggest product that exists. I don't have to reinvent the
absolutely.
wheel.
Yeah.
It's already, a structure on earth. And there's people that need to buy, people that need to sell, and there's people that need to lease, and there are some logistics that are involved. So that was just this vague concept that I had in my mind, and I knew I had the skills being at Microsoft and Accenture to be a project manager and facilitate and launch stuff. So I was like, how can I map these skills in this industry that I can touch and feel and potentially make a lot of money in?
Yeah.
And that was that just initial thought. And I read this book called Flip by Nick Ruiz. And it just taught me it kind of just brought me into the world of like off-market real estate and wholesaling and flipping, and I was just intrigued immediately, and I felt that this is something I could do.
Yeah.
And so one fine day, I was at Accenture at this time, and if you know how the consultant world works, you have a client that you're on a project for, and then sometimes the project ends, and then you're on the bench looking for another. They call it you're on the bench, but you're still part of Accenture, but you're looking for another client to
Okay.
serve.
Yeah.
So during the time I'm on the bench, I'm supposed to be looking for another client, and I'm just feeling like this is not what I want to do anymore. I'm 5 years into the corporate world.
Yeah.
I've made like this amount of money, and I knew that if I went back and just did this, it's just not going to work. So I was just at this like crucial point and decided, I told my manager that I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And just jumped into real estate. And 8 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to answer your question about like abundance and kind of the faith element of it, right? Yeah, no, it was definitely like difficult in the beginning to do real estate because my intention wasn't to be an agent, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that if I could flip a couple houses a year, maybe I can make I can match my salary in the corporate world. That was my initial thought, and but before I did that, I wanted to wholesale a property. I just didn't want to just jump right into it without understanding how someone did it first, right? So, at this point, I'm just trying to find an off-market deal. I have no idea how to talk to sellers.
Yeah.
I have like no idea how to like,
You're a rookie, man. Fresh.
I know nothing. You know what I mean? I have these like raw skills, but like no industry skills. But I'm just like, trying a bunch of things. I'm like, I spent, a lot of money on like marketing campaigns. I'm like, I'm getting appointments. Knowing what I know now, I would have closed so many more deals, but I'm getting all these appointments. And, but none of them were just like, closing. And I remember one day, like I made this, like I had this appointment, like, this afternoon or whatever. So that morning I'm like kind of getting ready for it, whatever. At this point, I've already gone on like dozens of appointments. None of them worked. So I'm feeling like beat at this point, right? But I knew I had to keep going to do
pushing,
this, but it's also like defeating at the same time. So that morning I make the prayer, I'm like making like a heartfelt prayer to God. I'm like, God, like I need to see money. If you don't show me money, like I'm gonna quit. Like I'm gonna go back. This is just not working. You know what I mean? It was almost like a demand to God, but it was like heartfelt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a humble.
It was just like God. It was a very humble request. Please help me. It was the very specific prayer was I need to see money. Because at this point it had been like 3-4 months. Imagine you're getting like consistent paychecks every 2 weeks
and then
for like 5 years. At this point, you're not seeing any money. Right, and your bank account is just depleting every single month. So I'm just really in my feels. So I make this prayer. It was really like a heartfelt, like, tear-induced prayer. Like if you're really a hustler and you're trying to make it and you haven't, like, and you're trying to pull yourself out of that place, you know what that feeling is. And I was feeling that. So, I leave my apartment, like wipe my tears, like walk into my car. And then what do I see on the ground? Like a penny. Right? So it was this moment of just like, okay, I see you, God. I see what you're doing. I asked you for money. You gave me money. Right? Like I should have been specific.
It's so funny.
You know what I mean? And then I realized, okay, you know what? I asked you and you provided, and I'm going to take that as a sign for you. And, not to get all esoteric in it, but I really believe in this, right? Like I believe that, the ultimate creator, like, to that entity, like there's no difference between a penny and $1 million. Everything is infinite. Everything is abundant. So I felt if you can make a penny appear out of nowhere in front of my eyes, like you can make $10,000 appear out of nowhere. And that was the amount that I needed at that time. And the crazy part is, so like I picked it up, put it in my pocket. I told myself like this to me represents the abundance that is out there that I can just pick up. That's for my taking. And crazy enough, that same deal was my first deal that I ever closed.
Same appointment
that I went on.
That's crazy, man.
It was like a $14,000 check. That was my first ever wholesale deal that I did.
Let me ask you, bro. Do you still pick up pennies today?
I do. And the crazy part is, like, if I see it,
I'm looking at my wife right now, bro. I pick up.
No, and I'll tell you, this is a crazy practice, and it's like,
Tell me your reason why.
Take it as you may.
And I want to share mine
take
too.
it as you may. But to me, it's a metaphor to how the universe is. And there really is abundance out there. It's like the way I see it, right? The way I kind of like make it logical for myself is that I read a study. There's about like 7 or 8 billion human beings in the planet. We don't know the exact number, but the study says that we could all fit inside the state of Texas if Texas had the population density of New York City.
Wow.
So imagine, like, the entire human population has the capacity to fit inside Texas.
Wow.
Right? So now think about the rest of the world, like how much water there is, how much food there is, how much gold there is, how much silver, resources, oil there is for the rest of us. There's absolutely way more than enough for all of us. So just having this concept and approaching the world from that lens makes you realize there is enough. It's just a matter of me figuring out the steps and resources to go take it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Is that the concept behind of you picking up
pennies
today?
After that was my, like, after that first, that was a crazy moment that happened, right? Since that moment, anytime I see it, I pick it up to kind of validate the same metaphor, validate the same belief that and to kind of reaffirm to myself that I have it. So at this point at home, I have like a big jar of like pennies, quarters, and I picked up like $100 bills, like, you know what I mean? It's happened throughout this time.
Bro,
it's this energy of like I get money.
It's an abundance.
It's like this feeling of like wherever I go, like I am a magnet to abundance coming my way, and that to me is just a representation of it. It's like if I can pick up a penny or quarter, there's no difference. Like to me, like I literally in my mind I look at it like a penny represents $10,000. If I find a quarter, it's 250,000. Or 25,000, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like it's a I kind of have this mentality. And then sometimes like if I have like a dry, like, a few weeks or like a month,
Sure.
or I'm like, man, like things aren't falling in place.
Yeah.
I go to my jar, it's full of abundance. I just shake it,
Yeah.
and I feel that vibration of
Yeah.
like there's just so much out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remind myself of this metaphor of this reality,
Yeah.
right? And to me that represents like real money. Yes, it's not like a crazy amount, but it's not about the amount. It's just about what it represents.
Absolutely, and I think it ties into the faith, the abundance, the energy. At the end of the day, all kind of coincides as one, right?
Absolutely.
I'll share my thoughts on
Yeah,
the whole penny thing.
that's crazy. You
For
do that too.
bro, a penny, a dime. Sometimes I have dreams where I like find a quarter in the dirt, and I've shared with my wife, and then I pick it up and
Yeah.
it digs for I dig further,
Yeah.
and there's like more change in there, and I dig, and all of a sudden it's a pile of quarters, bro. I swear to God.
That's
and
crazy.
I'm like, oh my God, right? But for
Yeah.
me, the reason I pick up every single penny, and I'm so funny, I've thought about like making snaps and posts about this.
Yeah.
It's a matter of respect, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody, they want money, right? We all want it, but if you can't respect that penny on the ground that you see, you just walk past it, you're never gonna get the real money.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I look at it, right, and bro, it's 3, 4, 5 times a week. There's a penny, a nickel, just something like it's there. Whatever it is, I don't care if I'm at a gas station in a suit. I'm gonna bend down, pick up
Pick
the
it up.
penny, clean it
Absolutely.
up. I'm gonna put it in my car
Absolutely.
because that's the universe for me. The way I look at it is like, if I can't respect this,
Yes.
how am I gonna respect this?
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So they say there's a quote where money comes to those who can attract it, right?
Yes.
So everyone can go out there, work hard, slave
Yeah.
away, and
Yeah.
and make money, but
Yeah.
those who attract it effortlessly,
Yeah.
because they're attractive people. And
100%.
money is attracted to attractive
Facts.
people.
Facts.
So that's kind of my
Yeah.
reasoning behind the whole
Yeah. No,
thing.
I genuinely feel like the mentality behind it is that you're pretty much putting out this like thought signature
Yeah.
about how the relationship between you and money is with the universe, even if it's a small amount
Yeah.
like that. And that thought signature kind of carries to larger amounts with the deals and people that we impact.
Yeah, bro. So if we're talking about like this abundance mindset, I mean, look, I'm gonna touch in on like real estate, like with what I see, and you share if you can share and maybe touch on like there's a lot of people, they want to get into real estate, they want to get into entrepreneurship, right? But it's all kind of, what guidance would you give them, man? Like I see so much of the younger generation, right? They want to succeed, they want to make money, but I also see them taking the wrong information, and I see it all the time, right? Like if you can guide someone who's new into the business, right, who wants to succeed, like what are a couple things that you would share with that young 20-year-old,
Yeah.
Vozhi or something, right?
Yeah. I would say, and I do, interact with a lot of, younger people that ask me this question. And, my advice to them always is think long term, first and foremost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like think long term about what it is that you want. Because, especially at that age, a lot of people look at real estate as a way to just make quick money. And it's not, it can be quick money once you put the initial effort in to create a network and create systems and, create an environment for yourself where you can attract that, right? But it takes effort to get to that point. And during that point, just have patience and, stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
That'd be my advice. And additionally, like, I think something that came natural to me just because of, how I grew up and, my parents, of their relationship with money, there was an element of like frugality, like being frugal with money that I had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where if I made, a really, big check, I would, save like 90% of it,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
those decisions allowed me to, buy real estate and, allowed me to be in positions to, create equity and now get into bigger deals.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have happened if I didn't have the, foresight to invest my money. So it's like, yeah, have patience. And, once the money starts coming in, like be smart about where that money goes.
Yeah.
And then after that point, then, things are just going to be in motion for you.
How big do you think mindset is? This thing that we talk about, mindset, right? You'll hear it on a select few people
Yeah.
in the business, in
Yeah.
the real estate world, like mindset when it comes to someone getting into the business.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most important thing. I think any entrepreneur would tell you, right? It's if you don't have a positive outlook towards the efforts you're putting in towards the business,
Yeah.
then what's the reason you're even putting those efforts in?
Yeah.
All right. So having a positive mindset is crucial. I always say, thoughts are the ancestors to all things physical.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything we see in front of us, like, even the way this room is set up, like your wife had a vision
Yeah.
of how she wanted it and it's here.
Yeah.
Like, shout outs to her.
Thanks, our sermon.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
wifey.
yeah, there's like the road, it's like it's designed by someone who had that vision in their head before it became what it physically is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think our life is very similar, and it kind of carves itself out the way we think.
Yeah.
Right? So I think just being intentional about how you think is a major game changer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in your mind, like, what's the difference between a person who succeeds and the person that quits, besides the obvious? Like, what's the mindset like of those two individuals?
The person that succeeds versus the person that quits.
Yeah.
I think the person that succeeds just has, in general, more faith, whether it's with themselves, with God, whatever the case is, like whatever their, the source for motivation is. For a lot of people, it's different things.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, the person that continues has a very strong why for why it is what they're doing.
Okay.
Versus the person that quits it's their why isn't strong enough, so that they're attracted to the next shiny object.
Yeah. So what do you when you say why, are you talking about? Can you touch in on that? So maybe some of the younger generation that's listening is,
Yeah.
I think when you're young,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I was guilty of it.
Yeah.
I got into real estate because I was like, man, there's a lot of potential.
Right.
I didn't have a why.
Yeah.
I was just like, damn, I can make more, be more financially successful in this business because I see a lot of people doing it. I'm going to get in. But how do you develop that why?
I think it depends on an individual, every individual person, right? Like for me, my why was developed off of the very specific life that I grew up with, with my parents, like struggling financially, and like money always being this factor in family, and knowing that this is not something that I wanted to worry about, like the same way that
Amen.
I wanted to worry,
Yeah.
that I worried about it. I don't want my kids to worry about it the same way that I worried about it growing up.
Absolutely.
And also, being the firstborn in an immigrant household, there's this kind of like, especially being a son, and in our cultures, there's this like natural, hey, you are next in charge. You have
It's
this
on your
responsibility.
shoulders.
Yeah. And I felt this like very early on. I was like, the first, born immigrant child in my family as a son in America. Right.
Okay.
So I felt this, like this internal feeling of I have to protect them. And then imagine now you're like, 2-3 years in America. Now you're a lot more assimilated into the culture, but your parents aren't. So now you're this kid, but you're also kind of their guide into this world in so many different ways too.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think all of these things kind of accumulated to a point where I realized just like I want my parents to feel comfortable in life, and I want my future family to feel comfortable in life. And I want to make sure that I am going to do everything that's within my power to allow for that. So that was my very strong internal compass.
Your why,
My why
pushing you,
that pushed me. And then, additionally, outside of that, it's like the other, pieces to that why is I knew I didn't like the world that I was in, like previously. Like I knew I was making good money, but I knew that if I stayed in this world, I'm not going to be spiritually fulfilled.
Yeah.
So that spiritual fulfillment was also a big why for me. That time freedom.
I'm gonna touch on those. Do you think entrepreneurship is for everyone? Like that decision you made from the corporate world, making good money to
Definitely
get into?
not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it requires, and there's nothing wrong with not being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know lots of, I have so many friends that are, that have like a job that they really enjoy, that, pays them enough to, sustain their, very specific lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they have the time to do the things they love, time with family. So it all, depends on what success means for you. And success means different things for everybody. It's relative, right?
Yeah.
But with that said, I don't necessarily think entrepreneurship is for everybody. And I don't think everyone should like force themselves to do it if that's not internally like within them either.
Sure.
What do you think?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think, for me, it was like an inner feeling, because I was in the corporate world too. I a manager at GNC supplement store, so I was big into health and fitness.
Nice.
It was a sales job, but we were one of the top stores in the region out of 30 stores from North Seattle all the way down to Olympia, and
Wow.
I managed the Olympia store. But the only difference was the store was built on relationships with clients.
Mm.
Like I would sell a lot of supplements. You'd come
Mm.
in, you'd be spending 100, $200 very easily.
Mm.
But it was built on trust
Mm.
that I'm going to help this person lose the weight.
Mm.
They're going to gain the lean muscle that they want. They're going to cut down. We would go extra mile to build meal plans for them. We
Mm-hmm.
weren't getting paid for meal plans.
Mm-hmm.
Our job was to sell, but not to just sell because we made commission, but it was like, hey, these products are things that I believe in, that I take, that I know is going to help.
Mm.
And there's guarantees. Like if it doesn't work, bring it all back.
Totally.
I will refund you your money. But guess what?
Yeah.
99% of the time they come back like, bro,
Yeah.
here's my friend.
Yeah.
Can you get him on the same plan? Because I lost 8 pounds.
Yeah.
So they'd come in and they'd see the value we created through the sale, which helped it grow.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to a point where you're capped.
Mm.
The
Right.
next position is district manager, and I see my district manager. He's working 70 hours a week,
Yeah.
never home, traveling from, like I said, North Seattle all the way down to Olympia and every store in between,
Jeez.
out to Yelm, out to Puyallup, 4 or 5 stores a day.
Jeez.
And he's only making 90,000 plus bonuses.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like, do I want to live that life?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's the choices, man. It's like, ultimately it's and there's so many, there's so many reasons to get into entrepreneurship, right? Like whether it is you're just like, hey, I have the skills, I just want to make money, and
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do to do it. Great, you know what I mean? Or there's people that are like accidental entrepreneurs. They just genuinely enjoy something
Yeah.
that they have a passion for, that they want to share with the world.
Yeah.
And they look at entrepreneurship as a means to sustain that, and that's beautiful too. You know what I mean? It's
It's that funny because you're talking about this. My goal was, this is a buddy that I had back then. Our
Yeah.
goal was we wanted to buy our own franchise GNC.
Oh,
We were
yeah?
crushing every store, right? He
Yeah.
had his own he was managing his own store. I was managing my own. We were always competing with each other because
Yeah.
everyone else was just behind.
Yeah.
But our goal was like, yeah, well, you know what? We want to open up our own store. Like we went down to like Portland to go look at franchises.
Wow.
We're like 20 years old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then, we didn't really have any money. So,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
At that time, you're barely making it. You're
Yeah.
kind of enjoying other 20-year-old stuff. So
Yeah.
we weren't financially literate, you could say. We didn't know how to manage our money. We made it, and we
Yeah.
kind of just blew it like every other 20-year-old, right?
Right.
But we had this ambition and goal, but that didn't happen. And long story short, it ended up getting into real estate.
Yeah.
Kind of taking that chance and that
Yeah.
risk, And there's one thing you said is like, real estate's a big product.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next biggest thing that I could, I think you said sell. Or,
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, it's real estate, right?
Yeah.
Because at that time, when you're in the early 20s, you're kind of money motivated.
Right.
And then going to the why, I think I discovered my why a
Yeah.
few years into real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to get in and be successful or make good money. But in order for me to really grow my business and take it to the next level, like why did I want to be successful?
Yeah.
What was I doing it for?
Yeah.
So that kind of you could say was created in the first couple of years. I had to learn about who I was and
Absolutely.
why I was doing what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. Do you feel like your biggest inflection point in your career kind of happened after that moment?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's, I was talking to you before this, my mentor, Saul, right?
Yeah.
He says, you gotta, why are you doing this? Why do
Yeah.
you want to sell 50 homes a year? Why do you
Yeah.
want to, make $1 million?
Yeah.
Like, what's your purpose?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with it?
Yeah.
When you do get there, then what? You're gonna go
Yeah.
after 2 million, then
Yeah.
3 million, then it's never gonna end.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he told me, he's like, most people in this business, they're making a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know why they're making it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just going 20, 30 years. He said, you got to have a plan.
100%.
You got to have a plan. Like, why do you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of reversed engineered, like, what's the end game?
Yeah.
When I'm 40, 50 years old, like,
Right.
when do you want to retire? How much
Right.
money do you want to have coming in passively?
Right.
So you can do the things that you enjoy.
Right.
And at that time for me, it was like, yeah, I want to have enough money so I can take care of my family.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about money because I grew up in that family where, turn off the lights. Like,
Yeah.
why are you in the shower 30
Yeah,
minutes?
yeah.
Like, right. The bills, like,
Yeah.
and now we're looking like, bro, how much does the lights really cost?
Exactly.
What,
Yeah.
extra $20 a
Yeah.
month? It's okay.
Yeah.
So it's that whole everything just had to change. I had
Right.
to unlearn everything that I
Right.
learned in the first 22, 23 years of my life.
Mm.
I would say a huge influence was Saul, my mentor.
Mm.
So having the right guidance, that right environment,
Yeah.
and meeting the right people.
Yeah.
And this kind of segues into my next question is like how important do you think it is for the younger generation, even any generation, to have that environment around them? Because today in social, I don't know about you, but I see so much fake shit
Yeah.
all like everywhere,
Yeah.
especially in the real estate industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's the gurus, they're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but they ain't really doing
Yeah.
most of the shit that they're saying.
Right.
It kind of pisses me off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I think it's definitely tricky for the younger generation to figure out, who's actually doing things,
Yeah,
especially when you don't have knowledge
yeah,
in the industry, right? Like, and all you're looking at is just the flashy stuff and, buzzwords that certain people end up using. It's sad to see a lot of of the younger generation, fall to that. But ultimately, the best way for them to surround themselves in the right atmosphere is to physically go to these like networking events
yeah,
and meet people. You know what I mean? And I know it's kind of an old school approach, but I think you're not really going to understand what someone's about until you genuinely get a chance to like meet with them and interact with,
yeah,
what they're doing. For me, that's kind of how it began originally. Honestly, like I didn't know anything about real estate, and especially in like 2016, time period, it wasn't like active on Instagram for me to just go identify who
yeah,
the
yeah.
movers and shakers are.
Absolutely.
So I would just go on like Eventbrite, find the real estate events and just try to go to as many of them as possible.
Yeah,
And then throughout that process, I started identifying who the consistent people were that were the real producers and
yeah,
movers and shakers in the industry. And then I just asked them the question, hey, how can I provide value for you?
yeah,
How can I make your life easier?
yeah,
And, just being young and ambitious, they, you know, just gave me a little pointers and kind of pointed me in the right direction.
yeah,
And I just kept asking people
yeah,
along my journey, and I just kept getting pointed in the right direction. And then over a course of time, you start building a little bit more knowledge. You now have a network of, mentors that you can refer questions to,
okay,
and you kind of just progress from there. But ultimately, I do think it's so crucial for people to put themselves in front of like people.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it's so easy to just be, like on your phone or on your laptop or your iPad, looking at YouTube videos and getting knowledge. And that's I do that too.
sure,
But there's just a difference when you get a chance to actually interact with someone and
and
ask them the
connect
right
with them.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, going over into like say real estate, I
Yeah.
mean, I think we shared a lot about kind of hopefully with people that are fresh, new into the business.
Yeah.
If we go into like the business side, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're 8 years in now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think you were telling me you started 2016, didn't get your first deal till 2017, the
Mm-hmm.
4 months,
Yeah.
your prayer that came
Yeah.
true, you
Yeah.
found
Yeah.
the penny.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, man, like, I see you on social, you're in the development space. Like, what's going on in your world?
Yeah.
Like, is Vozhi's why still the same or has it changed?
I think it's evolving. It's very the core mission statement that I mentioned earlier about the three pillars being real estate, music, community. All three of those are very much intact.
Yeah.
And I think it's just expanding at this point
Okay.
in how it is that I want to proceed. And within the real estate space, when I got into the industry, the goal was to create an atmosphere where I can have financial freedom,
Yeah.
right? And along this journey, I have been in various different deal structures where I feel now, okay, these are the very specific types of deals that I want to involve myself with. And when I began the journey, the goal was to hold property
Yeah.
and enjoy the equity appreciation and the cash flow
Yeah.
that comes with real estate. So that was always the goal. And kind of when I first started off, it was wholesaling, flipping deals, and then eventually I got my license so that I can list my own flips.
Yeah.
And then from there it evolved into like further wholesaling, listing, and then being active on social media kind of opened up my community of followers that use me on the retail end to buy and sell real estate. So that's like
Absolutely.
an avenue. And yeah, kind of over the years, I've had the opportunity to meet some mentors who originally were my clients that have brought me on to some of the deals that they're a part of now.
Wow.
And this is what I mean when I say your network,
Yeah.
or your is your net worth.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the partners that I'm doing like my development deals with started off as a client.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I sold his condo, helped him buy a house in Woodinville, and he was originally like my first partner, because at that time I had the vision of, hey, I want to buy property and this is what I can do with real estate. But it was very hard for me to get loans,
Sure.
because my income was very inconsistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that particular time.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that he works on Microsoft, like has great income. And
Yeah.
he's also now like passionate about real estate, because
Yeah.
throughout this process of me being his agent to
Yeah.
to help him sell his house and buy his house, we kind of created this bond. And I told him, hey, these are the things we can do in real estate. And at that time, I wanted to get like a fourplex, because then you can conventionally finance it. And we wanted to just rent it out and then and do the BRRRR strategy on the fourplex. So I was now applying. This was at this time 2019. So I'd done a bunch of flips and kind of in this position now where I have some capital, where I wanted to actually like buy and hold real estate. And so I was trying to look for a fourplex pretty much in like Kent, Tacoma, like this area that kind of fit my budget. Couldn't find anything. So I launched a marketing campaign out in Portland just randomly, because I'm like, you know what, it's a close enough market. Let me just go try it. Ended up finding 2 adjacent triplexes next to each other that we bought for like $540.
Yeah.
And spent like $20,000 to like do the roof, paint, made it nice. And then within a course of like a year, we ended up selling that for like like 750 or 760, something like that.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of our first kind of real win in real estate, right? And before we sold that property, we found another duplex also that was on the market for a very long time that just wasn't selling. And we realized it wasn't selling because one of the units was vacant. And it's just banks weren't there's just something going on. So we decided to lowball them. Ended up getting that property also. So we bought this duplex in Portland, 2 adjacent triplexes, and pretty much ended up selling both of those within a matter of like a few months of each other. We bought them at the same time, and that was kind of our initial like pool of capital that we were like, wow, we actually did something where we can like go do something.
It's a good win, right? Yeah.
And then from there we 1031 that into like a flip that we did, and then we had a little bit of money, and then from that point we decided, okay, what are we going to do next? And we got into a partnership with 2 of my other partners that I had known throughout this journey, where they had previously bought this 25 unit motel in Wallingford, and they were able to like bulk lease the entire building to a tenant, and then refinance and do that thing. And they were kind of in this business now of like, hey, we got to just find buildings and just occupy it with tenants. So they were in this position where before they were about to refinance, so they didn't have the capital to get into this new building that they were already under contract at. And it's this 50-unit building in Belltown.
Yeah.
And at this point, me and my partner, we were, sitting on capital. And the right place, right time, we got into a partnership into this 50-unit building in Belltown. And that happened in 2021.
Yeah.
And then I'm still actively doing deals, being an agent, wholesaling, creating
Then
active
just keep
income.
rolling from there, huh?
Yeah, and then from that, so and then I've at this point, then I invested money into this deal, this development deal, which is the most active development deal that I'm doing. It's 6 townhomes in Snohomish.
I see that.
So that's happening. So it's kind of interesting now because this is my first time playing the developer role.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely relying on a lot of experience from my partner.
Yeah.
To help oversee the operations. But it's been quite a learning journey.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing, what the possibility is and what can be done out of this.
So,
and
let me ask you.
Yeah.
So what makes a successful partnership?
I think trust is obviously the most important thing.
Yeah.
Having very similar, values is very important. And then also having like a long-term mindset is super crucial.
Yeah.
Between me and, the business partner that I told you about, I think what allows us to be great partners is that we see this in a very, very long-term way.
Yeah.
A lot, like seriously, pretty much all the money we've made, we haven't taken out.
Yeah.
It's literally just been going back into the business.
Back into the next project.
And both of us realize that's the way to go about it. And we're going to sustain our personal life and our lifestyle by, making money.
By your work and
by work,
his work.
Exactly.
Okay.
So having that mentality just be it is just intact with both of us is what allows the success. And I've had previous business partnerships where once you make a certain amount of money, what you want to do with it becomes a question, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like, the concept of group economics, like if both of us are contributing the exact same amount,
Yeah.
we can do a lot more.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so that is an element that is very strong within our partnership. And just over the years, we've just grown to, really trust each other.
Yeah.
Like at this point, like he knows all my, like, when we apply to loans together, he sees all my tax documents. He knows my social security number.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
That's a big trust right there.
yeah.
Huh?
So it's like you really get into it
Yeah.
with people, right? And it's definitely important to
Yeah.
know that they're in it for the long term with you.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think a lot of people in business, they want to partner, but I think they want to partner for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
The values don't align. They don't have the same vision.
Absolutely.
It's more of like, hey, you got money, I got money.
Yeah.
Let's get partnered. Let's make some money.
Yeah.
But then the personalities, the values, the vision,
Absolutely.
the mission and that's what holds that foundation together for the partnership. Is,
100%.
hey, we're both looking at this in this direction. So
Yeah.
very good point, man.
Yeah, and I do think that there are various flavors of partnerships,
Yeah.
right? There's partners that I have where it's just like deal by deal basis, where
Sure.
it's like, hey, you know what, I got this property, you got the buyer.
Yeah,
Let's put it together.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
both make our commissions or split the wholesale fee.
Absolutely.
Boom, and that's where the partnership ends.
Yeah.
And that's the type of partnership where we do deals like that. And there's partners like I have, the one I'm doing the development deals with, where
Yeah.
that's more of like a partner for like the decades to come.
Okay.
Right. And then there's partners where it's like, hey, I just want to buy this flip with you. We're in it for a few months. Let's get in, get out.
Yeah.
And there are times where like it's like it might not be the same for every partnership, but I think the most important thing is to identify the roles and responsibilities early on.
Yeah.
And create systems for accountability
Yeah.
for those roles and responsibilities to sustain throughout the duration of the project you guys have set aside.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just get into partnerships for the sake of it being exciting, or they feel like, oh, this person can take the load off my plate.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the right mentality to have. It's more like the other way around. It's how much value can I continue pumping
Yeah.
into this partnership we have?
Yeah.
And when both parties are in that same vibe, then it's just abundance overflowing.
Yeah. It's
right?
going to be successful either way.
Yeah. When it's not like that, when the value, proposition or the value exchange isn't defined clearly,
Yeah.
then resentments and egos and things start getting in place, and those are very real feelings.
I think it's like someone looks for like, okay, what can this guy do for me if I
Right.
were to get in a partner with him? Like,
Right.
like, hey, I want to get with him because he can bring this to me. But what about you though?
Yeah, and it's equally important to
Yeah.
like to figure out, conceptualize for yourself, what can I do for that person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the basis of a solid partnership.
So it sounds like, man, things are rolling. 2024. Let's talk about the market just for like maybe 2 minutes max. What do you think is going to happen in 2025? Like, what are your thoughts on the Seattle, King County, Snohomish, Tri-County area?
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect, bro?
I'm feeling like things are moving in a positive direction.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like with the sellers I'm speaking with, they're feeling like they're a lot more confident again with the prices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the last like couple of years, a lot of them were just a little shaken up because
Yeah.
things weren't accelerating. Prices weren't accelerating as fast as they were. But now, just with the general sentiment, I feel that sellers are feeling a lot more confident, and I'm also seeing a lot more buyer activity in the marketplace. Right.
Right now, like in this current moment.
I think so. Yeah. There's a lot more buyers.
Absolutely.
Definitely more so than like summer 2022 was when things started really kind of shaking up. Right.
Yeah, rates shot up.
Yeah. And I would say until I think around this, like February, March time period.
Yeah.
Like people were starting to be like, all right, let's start looking into the market again.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot more activity with buyers, especially in, like Bellevue, Kirkland, Bothell areas, the areas that I'm more specialized in. And there's also, talks of interest rates, coming down next year. We'll see how that actually goes.
Yeah.
If that happens, then it's going to further, hopefully create more
demand.
More demand, yeah. And potentially more inventory.
Okay.
But I also feel that our like tri-county market is very different and isolated than the rest of America.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very good point, bro.
And so that I want to just make sure we acknowledge that, most of the buyers in this market are very, very well to do.
Yeah.
And they're very financially sound. They're, we're talking like, dual 6-figure income families
Yeah.
that have a lot of money, right?
We
So
live
it's
in
like
that economy.
Yeah, so we have that here. Some of the biggest tech companies are based out of here, and most of
Yeah.
our clients, probably are in that world.
Yeah.
And so with that said, even during this, time period when the market was a little shaky, there were still people taking advantage of the opportunity by being like, oh, what's an extra, percent or two that I have to pay?
Sure.
Especially when I can like buy down the
houses
rate
were still
for a couple-
selling.
Yeah,
Man. I was
houses were
watching
still selling.
Bothell. They were going 100, 200K over still this
Still,
year.
yeah. Depending
And I
on-
was surprised.
Yeah.
Like rates were above 7%.
Yeah.
200K over in Bothell. I had a guy that was looking up there. He's like, man,
It's crazy.
I put in multiple offers, 200, 150K. I didn't get it.
Yeah, demand is
Somebody
still
finally
nuts.
learned and like, hey, if I want a house, I got to step
Yeah.
up to the plate. So
Like,
at least for the right house too.
Right. And even during this time period, there were a lot of sellers that were obviously, hesitant about putting their house on the market, which created, less inventory, which created
Yeah.
more demand.
So
it's like
it's a supply and demand game.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about our area is that our price points are, like it's not going to take a crazy hit.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there are so many high net worth individuals constantly flooding the market looking for propities.
And you
You
got
know,
a lot
so-
of investors, you got a
Yeah.
lot of out of state money, so
Yeah.
a lot of local buyers.
So with all these like local variables in place, and now you throw the kind of like the national and global variables of what's happening with the economy and our politics, like the signs are looking positive.
yeah, I agree.
For our area.
I think our area, our community, King, Tri-County.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good year.
I definitely think so.
For at least for sellers here in the start of the year, if inventory stays tight, just like it does every springtime, late winter, spring months.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was bidding wars earlier this year, and rates were above 7.5%.
Yeah.
So if rates are, let's say, close to 6% over the next few months,
Yeah.
it's I can only see the pattern repeating itself.
Yeah. No, I genuinely think if you're a buyer right now and you're planning to buy in 2025, just know that the demand's just going to keep going up.
Yeah.
Right. So right now is a great time to start making moves. And even if you can get something locked up, before
Absolutely,
you
bro.
get into the next year,
Yeah.
more power to you because, prices are going to go up. There's going to be a lot more buyers
Yeah.
looking at the exact same houses that you are.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect time. Just speaking on recent closings here in the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
couple pending right now. It's
Nice.
like we've been able to get them below list, closing costs paid for, inspection, do all this repairs, but that's the name of the game right now. But
Yeah.
as soon as this inventory gets, you could say, swallowed up,
Yeah,
and
none of
the
those-
year starts and there's no inventory.
Absolutely. You're not going to be able to win those things for your clients
Yeah.
because there's going to be someone else who's making a no inspection, no contingency,
22, or I won't say 20, but paying more than appraisal.
Yeah.
I was about to speak
appraisal waiver.
I was
all
about to
that,
speak
yeah.
realtor language,
Yeah,
22 AD in there. But no, man. What about it sounds like we touched in about yourself, how you got in real estate business, what you're doing now, and I want to kind of go towards the end and really talk about like your poetic side, right?
Yeah.
What do you call yourself?
I call myself a poet. I call myself a vocalist, a rapper, hip hop
rapper,
artist,
vocalist, okay.
Singer, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from the Tamil culture, right? So Tamil, being one of the most ancient languages in the planet, it's a Googleable fact. I think it's the oldest ancient language that still is spoken today in the exact same way it was in the past.
Wow.
So there's this like deep
Interesting.
poetic element to this language and culture that's always been there, right? And we have our own version of hip hop music, kind of, and that's like existed for like forever. Like
So
poetry,
okay.
poetry is a huge part of our culture. There's like a very specific music genre called Ghana music. Ghana music,
Okay.
that's specific to our region, that share the same elements of hip hop, storytelling, talking about your life, like in rhythmic poetic way on our like specific drum patterns, right? So I kind of grew up with that already, and coming to America, like just being this immigrant kid, I didn't really understand how to fit into the culture, and for me, like music was just like my like escape slash guide to this culture, and hip hop was like honestly like in a lot of ways how I learned English. right? And, coming to America, feeling insecure about, being an immigrant, like not having other people that look like you that you can relate with. Like hip hop gave me this like confidence, like early on when I'll be listening to like, 50 Cent's like Get Rich or Die Trying, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like those early albums, it would just give me this like sense of confidence
Yeah.
that I didn't know what it was. And then kind of throughout the years, like hip hop and just music in general became like a big part of my life. And, like, throughout college, I would do like various little like, talent shows. And I always noticed that I was like better than like my friends
Yeah.
at it. Like I could, memorize lyrics a lot quicker and,
Sure.
do things, and I can freestyle. And there were these like natural skills that I had that I thought was just, okay, maybe it's just there. But then as the years progressed, I realized I really enjoyed the music part of it, and I was always creating. I was always like, writing music and rapping, and had my own, recordings on my laptop. And so that was always like a big part of what I did,
Yeah.
throughout. And yeah, it's like, and then when I started in the corporate world, I felt like I couldn't really like pursue that much, so I felt restricted from this like natural passion that I had. And yeah, in 2016, when I decided I wanted to jump into this world, like I knew that was like, hey, I'm going to be responsible for the money that I make, and at the same time, no one's going to be able to tell me how I can conduct myself and
Yeah,
express myself to the
absolutely.
world. And I felt that, being an artist is this expression and spiritual release that I get to involve with my brand.
Yeah.
And I've kind of just conceptualized it to myself that my music is pretty much just me encoding like my thoughts and feelings and wins and losses of this journey that I'm taking,
Yeah.
and document it alongside my entrepreneurial ventures.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of approach I've taken towards my music. And yeah, I've been pretty consistent with it over the years. And just also just being Tamil, being American, and now we're living in this like hyper connected digital era.
Yeah.
There's this like whole like like diaspora following
Yeah.
that I have that see me as like another Tamil person. It's like, oh, he's in America, a Tamil person doing music.
Yeah.
And
Real
it,
estate,
yeah, real
business,
estate, yeah.
like, oh,
it kind of
wow.
just adds to the overall vibe of who I am. And in the beginning, it was really confusing to
Yeah.
be this real estate guy rapping,
Yeah.
or like the guy making music, doing business.
Yeah.
But over the years of just
That's
doing
who you
it,
are.
yeah, that literally is who I am.
Yeah.
So it's like, why should I? And maybe it's not like orthodox
Yeah.
to be that way, but like it was just this raw feeling of maybe just why not just try to put myself out there and see what happens.
Yeah, but-
And throughout this journey, I've had successes within music that I'm just extremely proud of. You know what I mean? I've gotten the chance to like at this point like make songs for 2 like Hollywood movies that are now heard
Oh,
by
wow.
millions of people. I've had the chance to collaborate with one of the biggest hip hop stars like within my region.
Yeah.
And various wins that I've had that is just like internal, and I realize I'm gonna carry with me as I progress. And this music is just a reflection of who I am as a person,
Yeah.
and also as a business person. Right? We're in sales. Like
Yeah.
people have to kind of appreciate and respect your authenticity for them to want to do business with you. And I think my music is a reflection of who I am as a person.
I think at the end of the day, you're putting yourself out there
Yeah.
as the authentic version,
Yeah.
and you're attracting the right people that want to come work with you, right? So you end
Yeah.
up having really good clients, good relationships,
Absolutely.
and you don't have to hustle and bustle like we did, years ago, working with, say, clients that we necessarily didn't want
Yeah,
to, but had
yeah,
to because
yeah.
we're in that position.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to that the attraction, right? You're being yourself. You're comfortable in your skin. You're doing business. You're successful. You're also sharing your journey through poetry, through rap. And I think your last video that came out, that was fire. I didn't understand much of it.
Yeah.
But the beat, the rhythm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll have the words in the bottom. I was like, all right, and I can relate to that because I don't like listen to a bunch of garbage rap where they
Yeah.
just talk about a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
I want to have something where there's like meaning, like a story.
Absolutely.
The guy's sharing his journey, like he's like, I'm working hard every day, like I
Absolutely.
hustle, whatever, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like meaningful lyrics.
Absolutely.
But I feel like in today's world, a lot of the mainstream, that shit doesn't really sell because they want the BS garbage.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so
yeah, like some of my favorite hip hop artists, like people probably never even heard of, but they have hundreds and thousands or millions of people around the world that really vibe with them because they have a very specific message
Yeah.
that resonates. And that's the beautiful thing about today's world. It's like everything is democratized.
Yeah.
You can literally, platform and package yourself to be this very specific person with these very specific interests.
Yeah.
And globally, there are people with those very specific
Yeah,
interests
there
that
you go.
like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, I always say it's not about how many people, but it's about who you're
Yeah.
impacting.
And I think they were talking about they're like you rather have 2,000 followers that love you and trust you versus
Facts.
200 were just following you because you're putting on a fucking show.
100%.
You know.
100%.
So before we cut it, I want to have a question / favor.
Yeah.
I'm put you on spot. Can you
Alright.
spit a freestyle for us, or even one of the songs in Tamil, English, whatever?
Okay, I got you. I'll spit a quick little.
Or do we need to put a beat on somewhere?
No, you're good. I'll just go with it.
All right. Here we go.
This is something I wrote.
Hey, here you go, guys. This is Vozhi
Yes,
live
sir.
at the studio at the Mr. Real Estate Show.
Yes, sir. Hey, yo, I'm moving with intention as I'm pushing out content. And stop messaging me talking about nonsense. I'm dropping big bombs every verse. That's a dominant. I'm buying real estate is most economic. I got discipline. My habits are atomic. Shawty felt the synchronization because it all clicked. You know me, cold player spitting all slick. She told me that she love how I move with hella calmness. I put her on game. Change the only constant. I put myself in the mix to change me to a monster. Hella fly with some fans like a helicopter. Ask around my city. They gon' tell you that I bust up. I pay the price like it's taxes gonna cost you. Dinner meetings over some Alfredo chicken pasta. Signed the deal, got my equity, about to rise up. Telling you my spirit is a giant, we could size up. Ooh. Really about to take over, let me emphasize it. She chose cause I'm purposeful, you're way too indecisive. I don't circumvent cause I'm handling my business. It's about the journey, not the destination or distance. You
Hey.
can witness.
Hey. I appreciate you, my
Thank
man. So,
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me on the platform. Honestly, man, I'm truly inspired by you. I wanted to make sure I give you your flowers, on air.
I appreciate
you're
you,
You're
man.
genuinely someone that I have been inspired by over the past 4 years, and I'm truly grateful that we get to connect,
Yeah.
in this platform, and I'm looking forward to breaking bread with you.
No, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And it's likewise.
Yeah.
It's social media could be such a powerful tool to create relationships with people that have that similar path and vision of what they're doing. You're doing it in your community, we're in our community. But I think there's a lot of similarities too, right? So it can be very powerful. But once again, as we talked in the conversation, it's about finding your tribe, right? Finding the right people. But man, I'm glad, and I want to say thank you for taking your time to come out here. It was good connecting with you, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the first time we ever met. So
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
We,
Yeah.
we tried to meet before, but it
Yeah.
just didn't happen, man. So
Yeah, it was meant to be the
there
way
you
it
go.
happened.
The universe, the universe makes it happen on its own time, man.
Absolutely.
So
We just had to align.
We
That's
just,
it.
yeah, the alignment's here, man.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you. Any other questions or anything that I should have asked you, bro?
Nah, man, I think you covered, good ground, and, maybe we'll have more conversations in
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah, or if there's anything that you want to share with anyone that might be watching, man.
Yeah,
about yourself, anything else.
Yeah, so I mean, for those who don't know me or just got a chance to see who I am through this podcast, tap in with the journey. You can follow me on Instagram. That's VOZHI. I'm a real estate entrepreneur, developer, investor, and my goal is to help others do the same thing, and it's a lot easier than you think. Happy to connect, and let's make some magic happen.
I appreciate you, my man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you, brother.
Thank you.